Want to speak real Cantonese from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at CantoneseClass101.com.
Hi, welcome to Introduction to Cantonese. My name is Alicia, and I'm joined by...
Hi everyone, I'm Jinho.
In this lesson, you'll learn the basics of Cantonese grammar. Word order refers to the order in which words are structured to form a sentence. Consider the English sentence, I eat an apple. But first, let's remove the article "an" here for simplicity. We're left with just, I eat apple. The basic word order for English is subject, verb, object, or SVO for short. If we break down the English sentence, I eat apple, we can see that the subject I is presented first. This is followed by the verb eat, and then finally the object apple is positioned last. This is the basic word order for sentences in English.
Now, let's compare the same sentence, I eat an apple, in Cantonese. 我食蘋果. Like before, let's remove the particles to keep it simple. So we are just left with the words. If we break down the Cantonese sentence, we get the subject, 我, meaning I, then comes the verb, 食, meaning eat, and finally, we have the object, 蘋果, meaning apple. The word order for Cantonese is SVO, the same as English. Easy.
Right. And this is the basic word order for sentences in Cantonese.
Okay, let's move on to the next section.
To form basic sentences in Cantonese, keep that SVO word order in mind.
Right. For example, 我睇戲.
I watch movie.
Let's break down the sentence. We start with the subject, 我, meaning I. Then comes the verb, 睇, meaning watch. And finally, we have the object, 戲, meaning movie.
Subject, verb, object. Easy. Jinho, can you give us one more example?
Sure. Let's introduce a new subject, 你, meaning you. 你食蘋果.
You eat apple. Okay, I recognize the words from the previous sentence. So we simply change the subject that begins the sentence without changing any other parts. Is that right?
Yep. Unlike the Romance languages, there is no verb conjugation or gender in the Cantonese language. Yet, the word order is similar to English. So in fact, Cantonese is not that difficult. We start with the subject, 你, meaning you, then the verb, 食, meaning eat, and finally, the object, 蘋果, apple. That's how we form basic sentences in Cantonese.
That's really simple. What about negative sentences?
Forming negative sentences in Cantonese is even easier. Let's find out how.
Forming negative sentences in Cantonese is easy. In most cases, we just need to add the character for no or negation in front of the verb. Jinho, can you give us some examples?
Of course. Let's use the sentence, I eat apple. 我食蘋果. For example, to make it negative, just add in front of the verb 食, eat. 我唔食蘋果.
I don't eat apple. Now let's make the sentence, I watch movie, negative.
Okay, to recap, I watch movie in Cantonese is 我睇戲. 睇 is the verb watch. So the negative version of this sentence would be 我唔睇戲.
I don't watch movie.
Yep. So what do you think? Pretty easy, right?
Let's talk now about how to form questions in Cantonese. We're going to start with an incredibly important and useful phrase. You're going to need this to ask what something is. So put the pronoun or name of the item first, and then add
係乜?
For example, if you want to ask, what is this? You'd say
呢個係乜? In which 呢個 means this thing.
And for what is that? It's
嗰個係乜? In which 嗰個 means that thing.
If someone was talking about, say, eggets,
雞蛋仔, yum.
If you don't know what that is, then you can ask, what are eggets?
雞蛋仔係乜?
So we start with the name of the item.
雞蛋仔 is a kind of Hong Kong street snack.
Then we add
係乜?
to form the question, What are egettes?
Very straightforward. Now, you try to form a question. Leave it in the comment section for us to read.
Yes, please. Okay, now let's wrap up this lesson by recapping what we've learned. In this lesson, you learned that Cantonese sentences are formed using a subject-verb-object or SVO word order. To form negative sentences, we put the negation character in front of the verb. And lastly, you can create basic "what is something" questions in Cantonese by saying the pronoun or name of an item first, followed by
係乜?
Hi everyone! Welcome to the Ultimate Cantonese Pronunciation Guide. In this series, you'll master Cantonese pronunciation. Proper pronunciation is essential in Cantonese, and in this series, you'll learn it in a fast, comprehensive, and easy way. In this first lesson, you'll learn about the building blocks of the Cantonese pronunciation system that will help you in future lessons. As you're probably quite aware, Cantonese doesn't use an alphabetical writing system like English does. Instead, it uses characters that are comprised of parts that depict physical objects or abstract ideas. Literacy in Cantonese requires the memorization of thousands of components and characters. As you can see, this can be quite daunting for new learners of Cantonese. For example, if you were asked to pronounce this character, where would you even begin? You'll pick up the writing system eventually, but since we're focused on pronunciation, we need to skip them for now. We need to start dealing with the sounds of Cantonese without the baggage of characters, and that's where the Cantonese yutping comes in. Fa. Yutping is the transcription of Cantonese using Roman letters. This makes learning Cantonese much easier, particularly for English speakers. As you begin to learn more characters and improve in Cantonese, you'll eventually rely less and less on romanization. But for now, it's a good place to start. Now, let's have a look at all the sounds in Cantonese. There are 22 consonant sounds and 7 vowel sounds. You can form every single word in Cantonese by using these sounds. Still seem complicated? Well, how about this? Of the 22 consonant sounds in Cantonese, you already know 21 of them. That's right. If you're a native English speaker, then you already make these sounds every day. You can also ignore 5 of the vowel sounds for the same reason. The only thing standing between you and perfect Cantonese pronunciation is 2 new vowel sounds and 1 new consonant sound. You can handle that. Now let me introduce Teddy, who will be helping you to master these new sounds.
大家好，我係 Teddy。
Throughout this series, Teddy will be giving you native pronunciation examples for you to imitate. But for this first lesson, just sit back and listen to the unique sounds of Cantonese.
個、卡、瓜、夸、班、拍、達、拖、張、唱、靴、於。
In the next lesson, we'll look at the top 5 pronunciation mistakes Cantonese learners make. You'll want to make sure not to fall into these common traps. After that, we'll start going through the vowels and consonants of Cantonese. This is your chance to learn how to correctly say all of the words you just heard. We'll finish up the series by covering some special topics that will really make your Cantonese sound natural. To close this lesson, here's a question for you. Why is it important to spend time on learning proper pronunciation, even if you're already an advanced speaker? The answer, you will be understood, and this will help you build more confidence as you communicate in Cantonese. For beginners, you're creating a strong foundation to build on. And for more advanced students, this is your chance to improve your accent and lose any bad habits you may have picked up. In this lesson, you'll learn the top 5 Cantonese pronunciation mistakes to avoid. These are common mistakes that students of Cantonese tend to make, so pay close attention and make sure that you don't make these same mistakes too. Are you ready? Then let's get started. Number 1. Using the wrong tones. Most learners are not familiar with tonal languages like Cantonese. The meaning of a word can change if the pitch is changed, even if the pronunciation is the same. For people who do not speak a tonal language, some tones may sound nearly identical to them. This problem of perception is perhaps the most difficult part of learning a tonal language like Cantonese. Our lessons use a romanization system called yutping, which is comprised of 2 components, pronunciation followed by a tone number. For example,
巴、把、把。
As you can see, changing the pitch pattern, otherwise known as the tone, can have a huge impact on meaning. We'll have a look at all of the tones in Cantonese in Lesson 8. Number 2. mixing up J and Y in the Yutping system. The Yutping romanization system is new to absolute beginners, and one of the most confusing aspects is the J consonant. Although it's represented as a J, it actually sounds like an English Y sound. So whenever you see the letter J in Yutping, remember that it's pronounced as a Y sound.
有意願
We'll cover this consonant sound in Lesson 4. Number 3. Pronouncing the final P, T, and K. Some Cantonese words end in a P, T, or K. Most English speakers pronounce the final P, T, and K like in English, releasing a strong burst of air. This is incorrect. The final P, T, and K are unreleased in Cantonese. This means that you must not release a burst of air when pronouncing this sound. It's as though you're cutting the sound off. Listen to Teddy.
得達十
We'll take an in-depth look at final stops in Lesson 7. Number 4. Mispronouncing the C and Z consonants. The Cantonese C sounds a bit like a TS sound, like in tsunami. But unlike with the traditional TS sound in English, try to emphasize the T more than the S in Cantonese. Pronouncing it quickly may sometimes help with pronouncing the Cantonese C properly. Lastly, you want to release a burst of turbulent air when you're pronouncing this sound. The Cantonese Z is identical to the Cantonese C, except that you do not produce a burst of air. It sounds somewhere between a strong TS or DZ sound. Compare the sounds and listen to the differences.
煎周照千秋俏
We'll talk more about these two consonants in future lessons. Number 5. Confusing the N and L sounds in Cantonese. Learning a new language is stressful, especially when people start pronouncing words differently from what you expect or from what you've learned. Don't be surprised when you hear Cantonese speakers pronouncing the Cantonese N as an L sound.
你年年老老
A similar case exists for the NG sound in Cantonese, except that this sound is sometimes omitted altogether. Listen to Teddy.
我危
This phenomenon is known as lazy tongue, and it's becoming more and more common in Hong Kong, particularly with the younger generation. This manner of speaking, however, is generally frowned upon. Stick with the Cantonese that you've learned. You'll still be able to communicate with everyone, even the younger crowd, so don't concern yourself with it too much. In this lesson, you'll learn all the Cantonese vowels and their variant vowel sounds.
a e i o u u
With these sounds, you can pronounce any vowel that could possibly appear in Cantonese. Some vowels may be hard to distinguish, especially for English speakers, so make sure you listen carefully. Remember that memorizing and reproducing the sound is the goal. Don't get too frustrated if you forget when to use the variant sounds because that'll come naturally later. Are you ready? Then let's get started. The first vowel is
a sa ba san
This is almost identical to the A sound in the word far.
a a a a
The next vowel is
e be fe ze
This is similar to the E in bear.
e e e e
The next vowel is
i si chi zi
It's identical to the I in ski.
i 一一
The next vowel is
お bo 火 jaw.
It's identical to the O in or. However, there should be more of a vibration at the base of your throat.
o o o o.
The next vowel is
u fu gu ku
It's identical to the U in the word true.
u u u u.
The next vowel is
h the g.
This sound doesn't exist in English, but it's very similar to the U in the word fur. Be sure to compress your lips.
uh
The last vowel sound is
yu ju chu su.
This sound doesn't exist in English, but it's similar to the U in the word menu. First, try saying an E like C. Now try rounding your lips while pronouncing this sound. Listen to Teddy.
yu 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 yu.
Well done! You've just learned all the vowel sounds in Cantonese.
The question for this lesson is, where is Cantonese spoken? Cantonese is the oldest language and the most popular Chinese dialect spoken in Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, and some neighboring areas around the eastern part of Guangxi. Let's get into more details. In which regions is Cantonese currently spoken? Cantonese is the official language in Hanggang, which is Hong Kong, and Oman, which is Macau. And today we are in Macau. And historically, the most popular form of Chinese spoken outside mainland China. We're not kidding about Cantonese being spoken everywhere. It is the most widely spoken dialect among Chinese communities in Canada, the United States of America, and Australia, as well as Europe and Southeast Asia. Is Cantonese very different from Mandarin? Cantonese and Mandarin are two of the most spoken Chinese dialects. They share the same writing system, but each dialect has terms that are unique in their regions. In the case of Cantonese, there are even some special Chinese characters not used in other dialects. Here is an interesting fact. Pronunciation among native Cantonese speakers in China can be different from that of Cantonese speakers in Hong Kong. A lot of people in Hong Kong, especially the younger generation, use a lot of their own conversational slang and tend to speak what they will call lan yam, meaning lazy tongue. An example is the word you. The right way to pronounce it is nei, but in Hong Kong, many people pronounce it as lei. The question for this lesson is, do I have to learn Hanzi, which are the Chinese characters? In Hong Kong, Chinese characters are used in all settings. In signs, books, newspapers, websites, magazines, shops, and so on. So the answer to the question of whether you have to learn Chinese character is yes. It's the best to know how to write Chinese characters so you can read and remember more vocabulary. It is also helpful to learn the Chinese characters for better communication in markets and in the countryside. However, most signs and street names in the city are bilingual, as Hong Kong has been a British colony for over 99 years. Let's get into more details. How many Chinese characters do you need to know to reach daily usage level? Depending on how ambitious one is trying to understand the culture, normally 100 characters will provide a lot of fun for written communications in primary level. There are special combinations of characters that may be helpful to just recognize instead of to write them. For example, 火車, train, literally means fire car. Is there a standard proficiency level system for Cantonese? There are 2 official Cantonese proficiency tests. The first is by the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages, ACTFL, administered by Language Testing International, LTI, which includes Cantonese. The other one is by the Chinese University of Hong Kong, or 香港中文大學, which is the Computerized Oral Proficiency Assessment, COPA.
In this guide, you'll discover the top 7 ways to practice speaking on your own with our lessons. Let's begin. Number 1, shadowing. Shadowing is a proven learning technique where all you do is repeat what you hear in order to practice speaking. So, access any audio or video lesson on the site and press the play button to start. Then, as you listen or watch, just repeat the conversations. Or, even easier, read along out loud with the dialogue section. The script is right there in front of you. With our lessons, you can master entire conversations, just like that. Number 2, read out loud. I just mentioned it, but reading out loud is another powerful tactic and deserves its own mention. With every lesson, you get written transcripts and translations. So, as you play the lesson, read the dialogue out loud as you hear it. Why? By reading out loud, you're also practicing your speaking skills. You can do this with the lesson notes, the lesson transcript, or the dialogue tool. With the dialogue tool, you can listen to each line again and again, and repeat out loud until you master them all. Number 3, speed up your reading to speed up your speaking. Being able to speak without thinking is a sign of language mastery. If you're talking to a native and can respond quickly, they'll assume that you're fairly fluent. How can you do this? When you read out loud, try increasing your speed a little bit every time. So, start by reading with the dialogue tool. If you're like most learners, you'll read the first line slowly. That's because you're still getting used to the words, which is okay. Reread it. On your second try, you know most of the words, and you'll read a little faster. Reread it again. On your third try, you'll be even faster, at a native speaker's speed. And being able to read these phrases out loud and fast will help you speak fast. Number 4, record and compare yourself with native speakers. In order to sound like a native speaker, you must imitate native speakers. So here's how. Access the voice recorder, which is in the dialogue study tool in every lesson. Click on the microphone icon. Listen to the native speaker's audio, and then record yourself. You can then compare the 2 recordings side by side, and practice and try again and again until you perfect your pronunciation. Number 5, get feedback from our Premium Plus teacher. If you're learning by yourself and don't have access to real teachers, then you can always get feedback from our Premium Plus teachers. With the My Teacher tool, you can record yourself speaking and send the audio file to the teacher. They'll review it and tell you what to improve and how. That's it. Number 6, level up your speaking with Premium Plus assignments. With Premium Plus, you can also get assignments that cover reading, writing, listening, and even speaking from your teacher. These assignments can be tailored to your goals and needs. You get a new one every week, or anytime you're ready for a new one. Number 7, get even more lessons in the lesson library. If you want even more lessons on speaking and conversations, visit our lesson library and under Category, choose Conversation. You'll get all of the pathways and lessons that are focused on speaking. If you enjoyed these tips, hit the like button, share it with anyone who's trying to learn a language, and subscribe to our channel. We release new videos every week.
In this lesson, we'll learn some of the most common greetings used in Hong Kong. 準備好未? Are you ready? 咁就開始啦. Let's start. The most common informal greeting is hello. Hello. Just as you can guess, hello is just hello with the Cantonese pronunciation. We use it when meeting someone just like in English. But be careful, this is very casual, so don't use it for business meetings. And now let's discuss a more formal way to greet people. The one you're probably used to hearing is 你好. 你好. Literally, 你好 means you are well. However, we may also interpret it as hello. We use 你好 when meeting someone for the first time or for higher-ranking people, such as the elderly. When it's time to leave, we say bye-bye for informal situations. And you are right, it's just like the English bye-bye with a Cantonese pronunciation. Bye, bye. And in formal situations, use 再見, 再見. 再見 means goodbye. Finally, in Cantonese, we have an expression meaning see you soon that can be considered both formal and informal. 下次見, 下次見. Now you can greet people in many different ways in Cantonese. Let's go over them again. When meeting your friends or family, say hello. When leaving in an informal situation, say bye-bye. When meeting older people or someone you don't know, 你好. When leaving in a formal situation, 再見. And to say see you soon in a way that's formal and informal, say 下次見. It's easy, isn't it? Now it's time for Olivia's insights. In formal situations, Cantonese speakers commonly greet each other by shaking hands. But if we meet someone we're very close with, we pat each other on the arm or on the back.
The question for this lesson is, what are radicals? Chinese radicals are a rough equivalent of an alphabet and the building blocks of the Chinese characters. Often, the radical itself can be a character on its own. Instead of learning individual Chinese characters one at a time, we essentially learn the building blocks instead. You only have to learn a few radicals to be able to read some of the most common Chinese characters out there. Let's get into more details. 部首, which are the radicals, are used to index the characters for Chinese dictionaries and are often reflecting some common semantic or phonetic characteristic. Knowing common radicals can help you greatly with learning new Chinese characters. So, how can radicals help you in learning Chinese characters? Because radicals are the basic components of Chinese characters, and each radical has its semantic or phonetic characteristic. Learning the characteristics of radicals help you to remember how to write and understand the meaning of Chinese characters. Let's see an example. Verbs that have the foot radical, 捉, are related to foot action. For example, 跑 to run, 踢 to kick, 踩 to step on, 蹲 to squat. Therefore, it's very common to find the foot radical 捉 on the left side of verbs that articulate actions done by the foot or leg. The question for this lesson is, what are simplified and traditional characters? Do I need to learn both? In 1949, the Chinese government introduced and promoted simplified Chinese to improve literacy rates. Mainland China adopted the modern version of simplified characters, while Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan continued to use the traditional script. If you can read traditional characters, you can easily learn the simplified form used on the mainland, but not vice versa. Let's get into more details. Which one should you learn, simplified or traditional? Learning simplified Chinese is more suitable if you stay in mainland China or Singapore, since simplified characters are used in these regions. On the other hand, traditional Chinese characters are used in Hong Kong and Taiwan and are necessary to learn if you live there. The traditional form of Chinese is the older and more classical form, and this is the form used in the most famous and best pieces of Chinese literature and Chinese calligraphy. Though complex, it is really a work of art that builds tens of thousands of characters representing different words. In Cantonese, traditional characters are called 繁體字, literally complex characters. Parts within a character often give hints of the character's meaning or pronunciation. For example, let's look at the character 1, cloud, 1, cloud. At the top, there is 雨, which means rain. At the bottom, there is 1, which gives an hint about the pronunciation, 1. What about native speakers? Can they understand both simplified and traditional characters? All native speakers in Hong Kong learn traditional characters at school, but most of them can easily recognize or guess the simplified form since they somewhat follow a pattern. Here are some examples of traditional characters and their simplified version. Feng, wind. Hao, behind. Sat, solid. Sick, appropriate. Guang, broad. Tang, hall or room. Heng, celebration.
10 questions you should know. Let's start. 你好嗎? How are you? 你好嗎? We use it just like how are you, especially when we're catching up with our friends. So it's more like casual greetings. 你叫咩名? What's your name? 你叫咩名? 名 is name. So 你叫咩名? What's your name? 我係 Olivia. 呢個係咩? What is it? 呢個係咩? Say you don't know what it is or what it's called in Cantonese, you say 呢個係咩? What is it? 你幾時生日? When is your birthday? 你幾時生日? My birthday is in January. Tell us your birthday in the comment section, please. 你住喺邊? Where do you live? 你住喺邊? 住 is the verb to live. So 我住喺香港, I live in Hong Kong. 我住喺日本, I live in Japan. And so on. Where do you live? Tell us. 你幾多歲? How old are you? 你幾多歲? 歲 is like years old. But it's not very common to ask people how old they are, especially female. Maybe for kids and elderly seniors, you can ask them 你幾多歲? How old are you? 你有冇去過香港? Have you ever been to Hong Kong? 香港 is Hong Kong, so you can substitute it with other country names. 你有冇去過日本? Have you ever been to Japan? 你有冇去過泰國? Have you ever been to Thailand? And this is Thailand, by the way. 廁所喺邊? Where is the washroom? 廁所喺邊? 廁所 is a washroom or bathroom. Very important question you need to know. 你幾多號電話? What's your phone number? 你幾多號電話? 電話 is telephone, but in this case, everybody understands that it means phone number. If you need to contact someone, ask for their phone number. 你喺邊度學廣東話? Where did you learn Cantonese? 你喺邊度學廣東話? Of course, now you have to tell people you're learning from CantoneseClass101.com. 10 lines you need for introducing yourself. My name is, I'm how old, whatever. Let's start. 我個名係 My name is 我個名係 Olivia. My name is Olivia. 我個名係 Superman. My name is Superman. Or you can say 我係 that means I am. So 我係 Olivia. I am Olivia. Or I'm called 我叫 Olivia. I'm called Olivia. Please practice and introduce yourself in the comment section. 我嚟自 I come from 我嚟自香港 I come from Hong Kong 我嚟自加拿大 I come from Canada 我嚟自火星 I come from Mars 我住喺 I live in 我住喺 it's literally I live in 我住喺銅鑼灣 I live in Causeway Bay that's a district in Hong Kong 我住喺柏林 I live in Berlin我住喺巴西 I live in Brazil. Or you can just put a place. 我住喺山窿 I live in a cave. I'm a caveman. 我學咗廣東話1年 I have been learning Cantonese for 1 year. 我學咗廣東話1年 I have been learning Cantonese 1 year. Or some people who are really fluent and you ask, how long have you been studying Cantonese? Maybe they'll say, 我學咗廣東話10年. 10 years, 10年. 我喺 CantoneseClass101.com 學廣東話. I learned Cantonese at CantoneseClass101.com. Where else? Or you're watching our YouTube videos, then you can tell people, 我喺 YouTube 學廣東話. I learned Cantonese at YouTube. 我26歲, I'm 26 years old. I'm 12 years old. 我12歲. Some kid might come up to tell you, 我3歲, I'm 3 years old. Yeah, usually people do this. 我係一個教師, I'm a teacher. Now you tell people your occupation or what you do for living. 我係一個教師, I'm a teacher. 教師 is teacher. 我係一個消防員, I'm a firefighter. 我係一個醫生 I'm a doctor. What are you? What do you do? Tell us. 我其中一個嗜好係跳舞 One of my hobbies is to dance. 我其中一個嗜好係跳舞 I don't know. 我鍾意聽音樂 I enjoy listening to music. 音樂 is music. What's your favorite type of music? You start with 我鍾意 is like I like. I can say 我鍾意去旅行 I enjoy traveling. 去旅行 is traveling. And you can say 我鍾意學廣東話 I enjoy learning Cantonese. With me, Olivia. 好高興認識你 Nice to meet you. 好高興認識你 is a bit formal. 好高興 means very happy. 認識你 is to meet you, to make you an acquaintance. If it's a more casual situation, you can say 好開心識到你好開心 very happy 識到你 to know you. So I'm very happy to have known you. 好開心識到你 10 phrases you always want to hear. Let's see what they are. First one is 你今日好精神 You look great today. 今日 is today. 精神 is kind of like lively, but in general great, like good. So 你今日好精神 If you see someone that has a glow in their face, you can tell them 你今日睇到好精神喎你今日好精神我帶咗啲特別嘢俾你 I bought you something special. It's always nice to receive gifts and special gifts, I guess, for everyone. 我帶咗啲特別嘢俾你 I brought you something special. Maybe for anniversary? Well, no, not anniversary. It's the best if it's not an anniversary or birthday or anything. Just a surprise gift, not surprise. It's even normal gift. I brought you something special. It's a very nice gesture that you can do for anyone. 你講得啱 You were right. 你講得啱 You were right. Literally, you spoke correctly. So, 你講得啱 You were right. Whatever you said was right. That's usually what a guy has to say to stop arguing with the girlfriend. Sadly. 你贏啦 You win. 贏 is win. So, you win. That is always something you want to hear. You won the lottery. 你贏咗六合彩六合彩 is lottery in Hong Kong. It's the name of the lottery in Hong Kong. 你贏咗六合彩頭獎啊 What are you going to buy if you won the lottery? Tell us in the comment section, please. 休息下，我今日會清潔 Take a break. I'll do the cleaning today. That's very nice. If the roommate or your spouse or your family do that, that's awesome. Can you clean my place for me? 你係一個非常出色嘅廚師 You're an excellent cook. 你係一個非常出色嘅廚師 Or you can just say 你煮嘅嘢好好食啊 What you cook is delicious. 廚師 is cook. 今個月底會有獎金 There will be a bonus at the end of the month. 今個月底 is the end of this month. 獎金 is bonus, so who doesn't want a bonus, right? 你做得好好啊 You did a great job. 你做得好好啊 Always give compliment on whatever people do for you. Doesn't cost anything to say a compliment, right? Always show gratitude. 我掛住你 I miss you. 我好掛住你 I miss you very much. Literally, it is by 掛 is the verb to hang, so it's kind of like I hang you up. Maybe you hang someone in your heart. You can think of it that way. So I miss you. 預算係無限 The budget is unlimited. 預算 is budget and unlimited is 無限 Spend all you want, but do it correctly, do it rightly. 10 ways to remember words. Remember words. It's always hard for me to remember new terms or new vocabularies. Let's see what's the way to improve that.
我不斷重複讀、寫同埋講啲字。I use repetition, reading, writing, and speaking words over and over again.
First one is 我不斷重複讀、寫同埋講啲字。I use repetition, reading, writing, and speaking the words over and over again. Keep saying it. 讀書、讀書、讀書、讀書、讀書 until it doesn't mean anything to you. And then Somehow you will remember.
我大聲讀啲字，等我自己可以聽清楚。I say words out loud so that I can actually hear them.
Next tip is 我大聲講啲字，等我自己可以聽清楚。I say the words out loud so that I can actually hear them. So some people, when they study a language, they just read it from the book or they listen to the video or audio, but they never actually pronounce them out loud. So this is actually a very helpful tip. You have to say it out loud and hear it in your own voice. That way you can remember the words better.
我學啲單詞嘅來源同埋唔同嘅字點樣串連一齊。I learn about the roots of words and how different words are related to each other.
Next tip is 我學啲單詞嘅來源同埋唔同嘅字點樣串連一齊。I learn about the roots of words and how different words are related to each other. Especially in Cantonese, it's very easy to link words together because sometimes it has a core words that relate everything about that with that character. So for example, car is 車 and a garage would be 車房. So the room for the car. You still have the word 車 in all the terms that are about cars. That's very useful, right?
我嘗試喺日常生活當中用呢個語言。I try to use the language routinely in the context of daily life.
我嘗試喺日常生活當中用呢個語言。I try to use the language routinely in the context of daily life. Say you're learning Cantonese and you can go to Chinatown, buy some vegetables, fruits. While you're there, you can talk to the people in Cantonese. 幾錢啊？平啲啦？ How much is it? Give it to me for cheaper price.
我將啲字同圖畫、相同埋得意嘅場面聯繫起嚟。I associate words with drawings, pictures, and funny scenes.
Next tip is 我將啲字同圖畫、相同埋得意嘅場面聯繫起嚟。I associate words with drawings, pictures, and funny scenes. So you can make a funny story in your mind. Some people say the character for a little is like a little penguin walking. Link it with any image, especially with Chinese characters. They're just like paintings. That would really help.
我聽歌，然後記住啲歌詞。I listen to songs and memorize the lyrics.
Next, 我聽歌，然後記住啲歌詞。I listen to songs and memorize the lyrics. That's actually a very good way to learn new languages. Maybe not so much for English, now that the songs are like work. A repetition of some meaningless words. I don't know.
盡量多閱讀，尤其係報紙，可以幫我記住啲單詞。Reading as much as possible, especially the newspaper, helps me to remember words.
Next tip is 盡量多閱讀，尤其係報紙，可以幫我記住啲單詞。Reading as much as possible, especially the newspaper, helps me to remember words. While you're reading the articles or the newspaper, there are always some characters, some terms that you can pick out, and that would help the words sit in your mind.
我成日睇嗰啲為小朋友而設嘅電視或者 YouTube 影片。I often watch TV or YouTube videos that are designed for young children.
Next tip is 我成日睇嗰啲為小朋友而設嘅電視或者 YouTube 影片。I often watch TV or YouTube videos that are designed for young children. Why those for young children? Because they're easier and they're slower and they are clean and they are easier for learners to absorb new information.
我將新嘅單詞同自己母語入面差唔多發音嘅字聯繫一齊。I associate new words with words that sound similar in my native language.
Next one is 我將新嘅單詞同自己母語入邊差唔多發音嘅字聯繫一齊。I associate new words with words that sound similar in my native language. that is very helpful. It's even easier for Cantonese because we have so many words that came from English. For example, 巴士 bus came from English bus. And strawberries, 多啤梨是多啤梨. Cherries is 車厘子. So that's how a lot of Cantonese words were made.
我嘗試用廣東話嚟諗嘢，令到我嘅思考過程自然啲。I try to think in Cantonese so it becomes natural to my thought process.
Next tip is 我嘗試用廣東話嚟諗嘢，令到我嘅思考過程自然啲。I try to think in Cantonese so it becomes natural to my thought process. If you're thinking in a new language, that really helps you in building up the grammar or the syntax, everything about the language.
Must know expressions for agreeing and disagreeing. Here we go. 我非常同意. I couldn't agree with you more. 我非常同意. I couldn't agree with you more. 我 me 非常 very much 同意 agree. So I agree with you a lot. Like I agree with you very much. I couldn't agree with you more. 我都唔肯定. Well, I'm not sure. 我都唔肯定. Well, I'm not sure. 肯定 is sure, 唔肯定 is not sure. So, I'm not sure. 我都唔肯定。當然 of course. 當然 of course. Or a more casual way would be 梗係啦 for sure. 我諗係咁 I guess so. 我諗係咁 I guess so. 我諗 is I think. 係咁 as is. So I think so. I think that is the case. 我正想講 I was just going to say that. 我正想講 I was just going to say that. 正想 is about to. I was going to. So 講 is to say, to speak. 係啊，你講得啱 Yes, you're right. 係啊，你講得啱 啱 is correct or right. So 係啊，你講得啱 Yes, you're right. 你錯啦 You're wrong. 你錯啦 You're wrong. 錯 is wrong or mistake. So 你錯啦 You're wrong. 我諗唔係 I don't think so. 我諗唔係 I don't think so. 我諗 is I think. 唔係 is to be not. So I think it's not the case. I don't think so. 可能啦 Maybe. 可能啦 Maybe. 可能 is probably or maybe. So 可能啦 Maybe. 我唔同意唔得 I don't agree. No. 我唔同意唔得 I don't agree. No. 同意 is agree. 唔同意 is not agree. So 唔得 is like, no, that's not possible. That's not doable.
Hey everyone! Welcome to your monthly review, the monthly show on language learning, where you discover new learning strategies, motivational tips, new study tools, resources, and where we show off learners like you speaking the language. That is, if you're brave enough to participate and become language learning famous. All the materials mentioned in this video are available for you right now on our website. Click the link in the description to sign up for your free lifetime account and start speaking in minutes. Okay, today's topic is how to set achievable language goals and resolutions, your New Year's resolution solution. So, for those of you that have set a language goal for 2019, what is it? Leave a comment and tell me. And for those of you that laugh at New Year's resolutions because they just don't work, this is for you. Stick around. Today, you're going to learn, number 1, the top 3 reasons why language goals fail, and number 2, what you can do to succeed with your resolution. In other words, how to set successful language goals. Let's jump into today's topic, how to set achievable language goals and resolutions. And speaking of New Year's resolutions, it's almost like a joke nowadays, isn't it? You set a resolution, you try to do it in January. By February, there's no progress, and doing it isn't fun anymore. You quit and put it off until many years later when you start regretting all the things you've never done. So what's the problem with setting resolutions, and why do we keep failing? Let's jump into part 1, the top 3 reasons why language goals fail. First of all, regardless of what most people say, setting resolutions or goals is a good thing. You have to know where you're going and what you want to achieve, right? Otherwise, you'd spend days, months, years watching YouTube and have nothing to show for all the time you put in. But the problem with most resolutions is it's usually something like, I want to master Chinese, I want to lose weight, I want to be fluent in Japanese. People set very big, vague goals. And that's the first reason why resolutions fail. Resolutions fail because they are non-specific and unmeasurable. What do I mean by that? Take a goal like, I want to be fluent in English, Korean, or Japanese this year. The problem is that's a very vague goal, right? What do you mean by fluent? And how can you measure how much progress you need to be fluent in the language? You can't. It doesn't tell you anything about how much Japanese you should learn today, tomorrow, or how many minutes of Japanese to speak by month 1, by month 2, what resources to use, and when to stop and take a rest. So again, the first reason is resolutions fail because they are non-specific and unmeasurable. The second reason is New Year's resolutions fail because they're unrealistic. And you might say, but isn't it good to aim for the stars and set huge goals? Sure, it's not bad to want to go far, but if you say, I want to be fluent by September, and you just started learning a language today, it's not impossible, but are you ready to commit yourself to nothing but language learning, 6 to 8 hours a day, nonstop? If not, you need to be a little more realistic about your goals. The third reason is resolutions fail because there's no action plan. The problem is you'll still fail even with a specific and realistic goal if you don't know when and how you're going to do it. For example, when will you study? How long will you study for every day? And how will you study? So resolutions fail for 3 reasons. 1, they're non-specific and unmeasurable. 2, they're unrealistic. And 3, there's no action plan. Now, how do you set New Year's resolutions and actually succeed? Your goals should be 1, specific and measurable, 2, realistic, and 3, have an action plan. So the complete opposite of the mistakes most learners usually make. And there are 2 more rules. 4, you need to set a deadline. And 5, break down your yearly goal into smaller monthly goals. So how would this work? Let's say my New Year's resolution is to have a 30-minute conversation in Japanese by December 31st, and not, I want to learn Japanese one day, hopefully. Already, you can see that it's 1, specific and measurable. You can measure 30 minutes, right? 2, it's realistic. I'm aiming for 30 minutes, not fluency. There's a clear deadline, December 31st. Before we get into the action plan, there's another important part. I break my resolution down into smaller monthly goals. So let's say my goal is to speak 2 minutes of Japanese conversation by January 31st, 2019. Again, it's small and measurable, just 2 minutes. I can time myself and see how far along I am. There's a clear deadline. It's realistic. I'm not looking to master the whole language, just reach the 2-minute conversation mark. Now, what about your action plan? For that, you just need to answer these questions. When will you study? How long will you study every day? Where do you plan to study? How will you study? What's your study schedule? This is the most important part because this tells you when and how to study. So, when will you study? I'll study at 9 p.m. on weekdays, so 5 days a week. How long will you study every day? I'll study for 15 minutes. Where do you plan to study? I'll study at home, in the living room, on my computer. How will you study? I'll listen to 1 or 2 lessons a day to fill up the 15 minutes. What's your study schedule? Monday through Friday for 15 minutes a day. This makes a lot more sense now, doesn't it? Instead of saying, hopefully I'll learn that language someday, and never taking action on your goals, by setting these small, measurable goals, you know what you need to do. Okay, let's recap. To set successful language goals, your goals should be 1, specific and measurable, 2, realistic, 3, have an action plan, 4, a deadline, and 5, be broken down into small monthly goals. So instead of saying, I want to be fluent in 2019, try, I want to speak 30 minutes of conversation by December 31st, 2019. And then go even smaller and set a small monthly goal. So everyone, it's your turn. Leave a comment and tell me, what's your small, measurable, monthly goal? And what's the deadline? Here are some examples you can steal for yourself. Learn 100 words in 1 month. Speak 1 minute of your target language in a month. Or do 20 audio lessons in 1 month. Deadline, January 31st. Now, speaking of lessons, here are this month's new lessons and resources. First, the Ultimate Listening Video Master Course. Honest question, how sharp are your listening skills? With this video master course, they'll be as sharp as a razor. Download it right now. Next, the Talk About Your Body PDF cheat sheet. With this cheat sheet, you'll learn words for parts of your body in the target language. Then, there's the most common texting slang word list. If you want to text in the language you're learning, you'll love this. You'll learn how to say LOL and other words in your target language. And finally, the How to Express Quantity vocab list, where you learn how to say if there's a lot, a few, or a little bit of something. To get these free lessons and resources, just click the link in the description below